In this video, I really want to talk about throwing a frog. I don't think that I have ever met an angler who doesn't like to fish a frog. Whether you are a pond fisherman or maybe you're a boat angler, maybe you've been fishing tournaments your entire life, everybody loves to throw a frog. And with it being the month of May, really, I'm gonna pick up a frog now and I'm probably going to fish it all throughout the summer, even into the fall. As long as I am in shallow water, I will have this tied up. So in this video, I'm really gonna answer the two probably most asked questions that I get when it comes to fishing the frog. But before we get into that, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. Right now for the month of May, I am running a package deal over at Fin Fishing. You can get a USA made sun shirt like the one that you see right here. It's one of the only sun shirts made here in the US, and a duck hat. This is a waterproof, that's why it's called the duck hat. Very light, durable hat. You can get both of them for $75. So you save about 20% on the overall order. But anyways, it's real simple. You can mix and match the colors. You can get whatever you want. All you gotta do, add the sun shirt to cart, add the duck hat to cart. You will see the automatic discount at checkout. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly one of the best ways to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the frogs. I have made a lot of videos on frogs over the years. I typically read most comments that I get, not all of them. I don't always reply to them, but I do like to read them. And a couple of the biggest questions that I get asked every time I do a frog fishing video of some sort, which it's funny to me because I think that they're not super I shouldn't say this, but I don't think that they're super important. But these are the two biggest ones that I get asked all the time. And the first one is colors. What colors of frogs should I use? And you guys know me. If you know me, you know I'm not big on the color game. It is even less when it comes to fishing a frog. I do not think that a lot of fish are going to see a frog up there on the top of the water and see what color it is and then decide if they're gonna eat that bait. I really don't believe that, especially when you're fishing in, water visibility that is very, dirty, which I fish a lot of frogs, and especially when you're fishing around a lot of cover. Like when you're fishing on a mat of some sort, there's really no way a bass can see the color of that frog. They're gonna hear it, and I think hearing it is very important. They may somewhat see the silhouette, but I do not think colors are very, very important. I definitely don't think it is something that you should really focus on when it comes to fishing a frog. Now, to answer the question, there's really kind of like what I would consider 3 shades of colors that I use, and one's gonna be a white frog, just like this. Also, keep in mind, if a bass can really see a frog at all, they're only going to see the bottom. So when it comes to a frog, when I say a white frog, that's really when I'm saying white is on the bottom. For example, look at this frog right here. This frog is like green and yellow, but it has primarily a white colored bottom to it right here. To me, when I say a white frog, these are the exact same thing, because a bass is only gonna see that white side. The green, that doesn't even really matter. So anyways, I like a white frog if I know that the bass are eating, threadfin shad, gizzard shad, things that are white in nature or lighter colored. That's the frog that I'm going to use. The other shade that I like is something that's dark. These are all covered in baby powder for the most part, because I put baby powder in my boxes, my frog boxes, because it keeps the legs straight and nice and not all kinked up. But anyways, the next color is a dark color. I have a black one over here and I have a dark brown one over here. Again, I do not think that the bass are going to be able to tell a difference between these two frogs from down below. And if I've actually recorded some footage of what a frog looks like from down below. And when you're comparing a frog to the light that is up above, whether that's the sunlight or like clouds, whatever it is, it really doesn't look different at all. Even a black frog versus a white frog doesn't look that different. So anyways, when it comes to fishing the dark frog, I simply like it on dark days. If I'm fishing early in the morning, late in the evening, at night, if I'm fishing in really deep, dark shade pockets, whether that's overhanging trees, whether that's underneath of a dock, or really, really cloudy days, that's when I'm gonna pick up the dark colored one. I've just had a lot more confidence with it, but I've also heard people say the exact opposite, where they like a white frog on dark days and they've had a lot of success. And that's again why I truly don't think that color matters a whole lot. So anyways, I like dark frogs on dark days, white frogs in around shad. And a lot of times I'm gonna be fishing some sort of what I would call a bluegill colored frog of some sort. So if I know the bass are eating bluegills, maybe I'm fishing around a brim bed, a bluegill bed, I'm gonna pick up some sort of bluegill color to try to match the hatch a little bit more. So when it comes to colors, those are the big ones that I pay attention to. Now the next big question that I get asked a lot is, do you go with a poppin' frog or do you go with the pointed nose frog? And that's really the only two that we have on the market. Some pointed nose frogs may look a little bit different, like this one's really pointed, this one's maybe a little less pointed. Even the poppin' frogs are a little bit different as well. But when it comes to this, kind of like colors, I don't think a lot of times it matters what you go with. I do not think that a frog can necessarily hear a popping, splashing noise and decide that they want that over a pointed nose frog in open water. I typically am going to pick a pointed nose frog anytime I'm fishing around vegetation. If I'm fishing around lily pads, cattails, floating or matted vegetation, that's when I like the pointed nose frog, because it simply comes through that vegetation a lot better, where this flatter popping frog is going to catch on that vegetation. That's the biggest reason that I'm going to select a pointed nose frog over a poppin' style frog. To me, I like poppin' frogs when I'm fishing in open water situations. And when I mean open water, I really just mean not around vegetation. So like if I'm fishing it underneath of a dock, even though it's under a dock, the water it's sitting in is pretty open. If I'm fishing it under an overhanging tree, next to a laydown, that is what I would consider open water situations. In those situations, I like the poppin' style frog. And the biggest reason that I like a poppin' style frog in that situation is simply because if you look at most poppin' frogs out there on the market, over here I have a Strike King poppin' perch, I believe it's called, and then the good old Spro poppin' frog over here, the one that I probably fish the most. Most poppin' frogs are pretty slender in comparison to a pointed nose frog, like the one that I'm holding right here. They are more cylinder, like if you look, slender. If you look at the difference here in the poppin' versus the, you're not gonna be able to see that belt. This one's probably a ½ inch wider than this one is. And what I've seen over the years, especially here in Ohio and around super pressured fish, like I fished around really pressured fish down on, like the James River down in Virginia, where I know they were seeing a lot of frogs. When you're fishing around smaller fish and really highly pressured fish, sometimes it seems like they simply get the poppin' frog better because it is a more slender profile. It's easier for them to just get it and have the whole thing. Where sometimes the bigger pointed nose frogs that are wider, they don't get as good as a bite on it. And so I tend to hook fish deeper with the poppin' frog than the pointed nose frog. Now again, that is not all the time. It is just what I've seen around smaller, if you're fishing, like in Ohio, a lot of times, like we want to catch a 12 or 13 incher, like to fill out our limit. That 12 or 13 incher is going to eat this bait sometimes where he will not be able to get this bait. There's other times where they will, a 12 incher will have this thing choked when you go to set the hook. Highly pressured fish are just a little bit picky. And so I like the more poppin' style, slender frog in those situations. So that's kind of the biggest differences when it comes to pointed nose frogs and color. Now, the most important thing is always making sure that you're around fish. Before you can really go testing what colors and types of frogs, the best thing you can do is be around fish. Recently I did a video where I knew that I was around a lot of fish, so I actually tested out a bronco bug style flipping bait versus a beaver style flipping bait. And on that day, I found out that it seemed like the bigger fish wanted the beaver over the bronco bug. But I can't really do that if you don't know that you are around a lot of fish. So if you guys want to learn how to get around fish, that is also why I created Gills TV. So I'll leave a link for Gills TV right here. It shows anglers exactly how to find bass. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow.